We're in Mark chapter 7, starting with verse 31. Jesus left Tyre and went up to Sidon before going back to the Sea of Galilee and the region of the 10 towns, or Decapolis. Here we see Jesus in a Gentile area. We had just read the story about him helping the daughter of a Gentile woman, and now he's in a Gentile area serving, ministering, and helping. Verse 32 tells us that a deaf man with a speech impediment was brought to him, and the people begged Jesus to lay his hands on the man and heal him. And of course, deafness with impaired speech go right together. If you can't hear properly, you can't speak properly, and you may have known people that had a loss of hearing and their words are a little muffled in conversations. So Jesus led him away from the crowd so they could be alone. He put his fingers into the man's ears, and then spitting on his fingers, he touched the man's tongue. Not very hygienic, right? But Jesus is doing what would help the man. He's doing physical sign language, so to speak, so the man can see that he is there to help. Looking up to heaven, he sighed and said, "Ephphatha," which means be opened. Instantly, the man could hear perfectly, and his tongue was freed so he could speak plainly. The man had inability, his hearing, his speech, and Jesus had ability. Jesus' ability is more important than your inability. And let me just say this, sometimes Jesus needs to mess with our ears to remove the blockage. Sometimes Jesus needs to say, hey, you have ears to hear. Listen to me. So this man was released from his physical inability to be renewed to a new ability to be a testimony, a witness for Jesus in his area. Jesus told the crowd not to tell anyone, but the more he told them not to, the more they spread the news. They were completely amazed and said again and again, everything he does is wonderful. He even makes the deaf to hear and gives speech to those who cannot speak. What's happening is that God, when he works, cannot be hidden. You just can't keep quiet about what God does for you in your life. If you've been forgiven, if you've experienced mercy and grace, it's hard to keep quiet about it. So in this passage, we see that Jesus is breaking boundaries. He was breaking boundaries when he talked to the woman and he released her daughter from the demon possession. She was a Gentile. That was a boundary he crossed. She was a woman. That was a boundary he crossed. And then we see in the next story, this deaf man in the Gentile area, most likely a Gentile himself, Jesus was crossing boundaries to help people in need. We see that Jesus draws a bigger circle to allow people to come in. He wants to include you into his kingdom. And so we close out chapter 7 of the Gospel of Mark. Now we're almost halfway through the Gospel of Mark. Jesus has been ministering and serving and preaching and teaching and healing and casting out demons. He is making a change in people's lives, and that's what he does today.